You might think that journalists just report on the news, but sometimes journalists go much deeper than the basic questions of information gathering. Investigative journalists can make the news by putting their lives and livelihoods on the line to expose injustice. The story starts with Nellie Bly, America's first investigative reporter. In the 1880s, at the request of her editor at the New York World, Bly agreed to go undercover at the Women's Asylum on Blackwell's Island in New York by pretending to have amnesia. Over a 10-day period, she carefully documented everything she saw there, from the deplorable living conditions to the often cruel and violent treatment of patients. Her exposé shocked the nation and forced the asylum's management to implement reforms. Other crusading writers followed in her footsteps, including Upton Sinclair, whose 1906 novel The Jungle, about unsanitary conditions in the Chicago meatpacking industry, contributed to the passage of the country's first food safety legislation. Their work held those in positions of power to account for their actions and ultimately helped change food safety in the U.S. for the better. But not everyone saw investigative reporting as a good thing. In 1906, former President Theodore Roosevelt coined the term Muckraker to describe journalists who focused on the negative rather than the positive aspects of U.S. society. Consequently, investigative journalists developed a bad reputation as people who would go to any lengths for a scoop. But as more and more corporate and political wrongdoing was exposed in the 20th century, that view began to change. In the 1970s, Washington Post reporters Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein connected a break-in at the Democratic National Committee's Watergate headquarters to President Richard Nixon's re-election campaign. Nixon was forced to resign as a result, and in 1973, Woodward and Bernstein won the Pulitzer Prize for their efforts. Today, investigative journalists continue to root out corruption and injustice at every turn to protect our rights as citizens. Can you think of other examples of how this type of journalism has led to change?